right, Colorado and Oregon teed up this week. Man, I think it's going to be closer than the experts think, man. I still think Oregon wins. I don't know about the 21 points, so if I'm staying away from that one out west between Oregon and Colorado. I want nothing to do with it because I know that Travis Hunter is out. I know that the O-line for Colorado has also of late not looked good when depth has needed to start emerging. But, man, when you have a good quarterback and a good offensive play caller and a head coach that's electric, Joe, I'm not ready to say that Oregon is going to beat them down. Now, if they would have beaten Texas Tech more convincingly, I would have been like, yeah, okay, all right, sounds good. But Colorado's already been tested on the road early in the year. If you think going into TCU is not a big deal and getting that win, it was a massive deal. Mm-hmm. Even last week, you're the talk of all of football, and you go into it, and you know what? You don't blow it. Your quarterback comes back. Shedeur Sanders leads you back into the game. Double overtime, you get the win. I don't care if it's against a Rudy Poo-ass state, Colorado State. Rudy Poo Tech could have been in town, and I would have said, you know what? They found a way to win. I still am picking Bo Nix in this Oregon team. They're too good on the defensive line, too good on the offensive line. Bo Nix is too experienced. Give me the Ducks by 10.
Right, that 21-point spread, that's
it's
insane.
Ridiculous.
That's insane to assume that it's going to be that lopsided because you know what? Their offensive and defensive line, it's not great. I've talked about how there's a lack of talent and there's a lack of size at those position groups because, frankly, with all the transfer portal moves that they made, they went and got a lot of skill position players that have been amazing. But one of the hardest positions to find good players at is offensive and defensive line. There's just not that many human beings of that size that can move at an elite level. And there's an even smaller amount that enter the portal every single year. A lot of the top guys that did enter the portal ended up at Oregon, specifically a guy from my school, a Johnny Cornelius, who's now a part of that Oregon offensive line. I think that Colorado eventually is going to get the bodies that they need, but right now it's just not where it's at. I can't count out Colorado to not keep this thing within 10 points like you're saying because Shedeur Sanders has been so amazing. He is a first-round caliber guy. He is a guy that delivers the ball consistently and accurately, and he's always going to find who he needs to deliver the ball to. The offensive play calling has been phenomenal. But why I can't, and I love the storyline. Everybody loves the storyline. I wish I could come on here and say, this is how Colorado upsets Oregon. But when I pull up, and I understand it's only been 3 games, but when I pull up some disturbing stats that fill the conversations that we're talking about here, it's hard for me to find a path for them. They're 122nd in total defense. They're one of the worst defenses in total yards allowed, one of the worst rushing defenses, and Oregon runs the ball really well with Bucky Irving. Colorado's also 127th in their own rushing offense. They're not moving the ball very well on the ground. And then the worst one of all, and the one that you might expect, they're 128th in sacks. They've given up 16 sacks, and one of those games, actually 2 of those games, were against pretty weak defensive lines. Colorado State's not that good, and I'm telling you right now, Nebraska's D-line sucks.
When you're throwing the ball 50, 55 times a game, you can expect that, though.
Whoa. I would, if they were at like 60 or 80, I would agree with that.
No, but let me hold on.
They're in the bottom 10.
Yeah, but I understand that. But read who the bottom 10 are. Do you have the bottom 10?
I'll pull it up right now.
Okay, because I'm about to learn you something. Watch this.
Sacks allowed, bottom 10. Oh, no, actually, they're bottom 3. Old Dominion, South Florida, Colorado, South Carolina, Akron, Houston, Hawaii, and they're good friends at Alabama.
Let me give one that everybody will know about. Hold on, just listen.
Okay.
Spencer Rattler has more dropbacks in the SEC than anybody else. So the more attempts that you have, the more that's going to happen. That stat will even out because here's the truth. I know everybody says
okay.
Hold on.
Okay.
I know everybody says Colorado State is ass. However, they are the only team in 2 weeks to play borderline Power 5 opponents. I mean, they played a Big Ten opponent in Nebraska. They play a Big 12 opponent in TCU. Name another team that had back-to-back games like that in the country. Oh, and by the way, Shedeur Sanders has more dropbacks. He's almost doubling and tripling some dudes in dropbacks.
Okay.
So
I understand that, but this is why, I don't like to just throw out stats. I also love to look at the film, and I watched the Colorado-Nebraska game.
I don't
Yeah.
disagree with you, but it's not like he's getting under
Yes.
pressure like all game long. He's had some
Yes.
clean pockets to work with.
That clarification is important, but what I'm getting at here is that when you actually watch the game film, you got a lot of guys that are getting beat on first moves. That the pocket collapses, and he gets the ball out so quick. It hasn't been that number could be a lot higher if this was a 5-step drop type offense where he was asked to really drop back and read the field, and he wasn't getting the ball out so quick, and he wasn't so decisive. That number could be a lot worse. But one thing that I have to bring up here and why I'm a little worried, Jordan Birch in that defensive line is really strong, and Dan Lanning is a really strong defensive-minded coach. For them to go up against this offensive line, they could have themselves a field day. Shedeur Sanders has been getting the ball out super quick. He's got to find a way to get it out quicker, which I don't even know if that's possible.
We'll see. We'll see. I do like, though, that I do like that Oregon D-line, man. I do like Dan Lanning a lot. That's another guy who Bama could go after, Dan Lanning, if things did meticulous.
Yeah.
I think he's got some things up his sleeve, old Dan. I don't think they covered the 21, but I think Dan's about to go out here and make a statement defensively. He's about to put that Sanders kid in a blender.
Yeah, they need to do a good job of protecting him. And you know what? They need to run the ball. They need to try to run the ball.
They're not going to with his son. Watch. I could tweet Dion at Dion right now and say run counter read. By the way, I went and watched Texas Tech game today against Oregon.
Uh-huh.
They do have a very bad big problem on misdirection runs. Very bad.
Yeah. They have been getting killed by space players.
They are not going to run the football. Okay, at least they don't. They've shown that they don't really want to. But, Joe, if you can take some pressure off of that offensive line and getting them out in space and out in the open to just seal a guy, if they do get to that, Oregon's going to be in trouble. Texas Tech whipped that ass in between the tackles in that 3 and 4 hole that are what people know as the double A gaps. They were whipping that ass, and quarterback was running all over them. Man, that look, Joe, if you told me, listen to this, if you told me Colorado won, it's because they did something in a misdirection that has put Oregon in a blender so far this year against everybody.
I think you bring up a really good point there. I think that for Colorado to win this game, their path to winning it, as I was saying, it's kind of hard to really figure out. But it's one, keep your athletes in space, get the ball out as quick as you possibly can, and be aggressive. I know that, this might upset some Colorado fans, some of the newbie college football fans that have been following and tracking it and watching some of our videos. As a team that has this momentum this early on in the season, that has won all of these two really close games, you got to be aggressive. You have nothing to lose against Oregon. You have nothing to lose. Be aggressive. Take shots down the field. See what happens. If you can, this always happens with big teams like Oregon. Oregon is highly touted this year. They were highly touted coming into the season. Bo Nix was a Heisman candidate. Try and punch him in the mouth early. Any big team like this, when they get knocked on their butt early, sometimes they can't recover. That's literally what Colorado State did to you the week prior. They came out swinging and they were aggressive. They took shots. They tried to, you talked about misdirection, trick plays. Do whatever you can to put the opponent that's supposed to beat up on you on their ass and then ride that momentum. That's what they need to do.
We'll see. It's going to be an interesting game. I'm not picking against Colorado plus 21. It's just not.
No, don't touch that.